Hello, everyone. I am doing a screencast to follow up for October's meeting since we ran out of time and I didn't allocate enough time in the Google Calendar invite. So the two main things we're going to be doing today is talking about how to approach it, and the second part is formatting. But your objective of the session with Dr. Chang and Shelby in this session is to be able to write a literature review by gaining experience in technical writing, bringing new insight to the topic and relevance to your research. If you've never done a literature review, I highly recommend you listen to this and not just go through the presentation, because there will be things I will emphasize and explain more in detail than what the presentation describes. So there was an article I found last year, and it provided these 10 rules of writing a literature review. And it was more science oriented, but I kind of geared it more towards engineering, obviously. So the first rule when you start this whole thing is defining your topic. So you should pretty much, but you've been a couple months into this, that you should know your research topic and what you're looking for, and deciding your audience. So I would say like your peers, other undergraduate students, this should be readable to them, that they have a little bit of an engineering background, but maybe not necessarily an expert. You're going to pick a topic that's interesting to you. It's related to your research that you're doing with Freedom or Power America. And the big thing is that it's researchable. So if you're picking a topic that does not have a lot of articles about it, it's making it really challenging. It'll make it really challenging for you to be able to write a literature review. So you want to pick something that there is a good amount of information in a specific topic and issue. And I'll talk about that more in later slides. Second rule, search and research the topic. Keep track of the things that the sources you're using. Dr. Chang and Shelby's presentation, they talked about different paper management systems. I go through using RefWorks. I've also used just an Excel sheet, just depending on what I'm doing. They had also talked about it's also by preference. But make sure you're keeping track of it. I think Dr. Chang brought up a fantastic point today, because I've learned this more through experience, is it's not always the greatest idea to just pull a bunch of articles and then start reviewing them. It's best to maybe pull maybe one or two and then get an idea of the current research being done, because this will give you kind of an idea of what the repeating topics are, and it may even allow you or provide you ideas on what to search next for future research. And also define topics that will be included and excluded. I'm going to model this through doing a mind map in a later slide, but that's something also to keep in mind, is that you want to have specific topics, but you also want to know what you're not necessarily going to include. The third rule is to take notes. It's really important that you are taking notes along the way, and I know personally I do it through an outline, but I also do it through a mind map with two different purposes. It helps with organization, and also you'll be able to see on paper the repeating topics that you'll have coming up in all these different articles. And you'll also learn the content better. Rule number 4, this is more FYI. Don't necessarily stress about this. This just talks about different ways of doing literature review. This is just something to kind of keep in your pocket. But you don't stress about the type of it. Your purpose is just share information from what you've been learning. Rule number 5, focus for broad interest. This is what I've told a lot of undergraduates. So for this assignment that we've always done for research programs, it's always 5 pages. So it's a balancing act. You want to pick a topic that you're able to provide enough information within that 5 pages that informs the audience, but you don't want to just fill it in with fluff. So you want to make sure that you are picking a topic that has enough literature out there and content that could be covered in 5 pages. But I guess also on the same spectrum, you're not going to want to pick something that is too broad where you are struggling to narrow it down. Here's an example of like how you would narrow it down. So say I was looking at electrical engineering and branding. So I would not necessarily just do a literature review all about electrical engineering and then do a literature review on branding. I would focus on the literature that relates both of them together. So just keep that in mind, is that if you're crossing topics, you don't have to do a review of each topic. You're looking at specific relationships in that topic. Rule 6, critical and consistent. So you want to cover major significant milestones, things that maybe are controversial, significant research questions in your field, and being consistent with your tone throughout the paper. So for example, if you're writing in present tense throughout the paper, don't suddenly start writing in past tense. It's just good writing practice and comes more with experience, but just be conscientious of that as you're writing your paper. Rule 7, find a logical structure. Make sure it's worth the reader's time. Make sure that you do have that outline and that it's easy to follow, it's well written, and it's to the point. Some things that help you with doing that is mind mapping and drafts. You may go through and write a draft and you'll find that there's a topic maybe out of place, or that you're dragging on one topic more than the other, or not covering another topic enough. The best idea I would recommend is to just write it out on paper. Just write something down. It doesn't have to be perfect English, but that'll come with the refinement. So just make sure that you are just getting it out. Rule 8, feedback and review. And we're going to assist with that process. So how this works, myself focuses on the formatting and if it's on topic and that the IEEE components to it and your references, while your graduate mentor or PI will look at the content. I have a little bit of a technical background, but I wouldn't be able to see if it's accurate or not. So you'll be getting feedback from multiple people, but that does not necessarily mean that that's your only feedback. You're welcome to get your peers to review it, or someone else that's an undergraduate in engineering. But they're going to be able to see things that maybe you won't because you've been working on it so much. Rule 9, be objective in light of your own research. You may have an opinion or be more biased or emphasize other areas because you like it better. So you just want to make sure that you are being objective and providing a general interest of your research also in there. Rule 10, this is kind of can be challenging sometimes, so make sure it's up to date. So what does that mean, up to date? I would say probably about 5 years, to be honest. If you're doing this for your class, a professor may have a different opinion. I've had a professor that said 3 years, and then I've had other professors that it didn't even matter. But generally, you want to make sure that the article is within 5 years. But that doesn't mean you can't use previous literature. If if you want foundational knowledge or background knowledge, that might be best for older articles. So it just depends. Just keep the purpose of the literature that you are looking for in mind. So obviously, if there's a paper written in 1998, you don't want to use that for the improvements that have been made on a significant piece of technology. So just using your own common sense. So we talked a little bit about all the rules of literature review. Now you have all this information. Now where do I even begin? So I'm going to share with you all a little bit of how I've used mind mapping for my own dissertation. So for example, my dissertation is going to be focused on research experiences, and I'm still going through the process too of deciding what my main areas are going to be. And I've been reviewing quite a bit of literature, so you can kind of get an idea of how this works. So this is a simplistic version of what I've been working on. So these 4 areas are just things that are repeatedly coming up in research experiences and engineering education. And so when I approach this, I just list everything. And typically off these sides, I'll have specific literature, maybe notes I've taken. And to be honest, the real reason why mind mapping works better than notes, and I'm not sure about if this is actually research proven, but that it really organizes your thoughts and where your brain's going with everything. So just having a piece of paper next to you while you're working on the literature review and just listing off your thoughts in an organized manner can be helpful. So these are like some areas that are repeatedly coming up when I look up research experiences in engineering education. But let's say I need to narrow it down. So I may take this and realize, oh my gosh, this is enough to cover a whole literature review. So I'm just going to focus those 3 topics for my literature review. So I may list on the side here specific literature or quotes or things that I want to make sure I include when I'm discussing these 3 areas. Or I may want to take a different angle and realize I want to show the personal growth within the participant. So it just depends on what your focus is going to be. But you can see how I can go from a larger topic to narrowing it down just depending on my interest. So kind of that covers mind mapping. To transfer over, I'm now going to go into formatting. Me going through this will not do this justice. You will have to look at it a couple of times, and it also comes with experience. We provide you templates, but just to kind of double check your work and the activity we have you do at the end, this will be helpful to you. So a couple things, these 6 items are specific formatting things to keep in mind when you're double checking that you have everything correct. So the first thing is the title of your paper. So you want to keep your title to 2 lines. Focus on this at the end of your paper. Don't let that be the thing that guides your whole format of your literature review. The listing of authors for you to know. This goes for research posters and perfect pitch assignments we're doing. It's always your name first, your graduate mentors are second, and then your PI is third. And it goes by basically the level of involvement. Your organization and university, what city this takes place, and email. This is not that this is some standardized IEEE format, but this is the common template that we have used for ours. Things for the abstract and index are keywords. So you're going to always see this italicized, and everything with it is also bolded. So the whole thing's bolded. And the keyword, or excuse me, the abstract is italicized. And this goes for keywords as well. This is kind of tricky when I'm going over this. So when I'm talking about heading 1 and heading 2, heading 1 is this first line, the main topics you're going to see. Heading 2 is where you're going to see these letters. So these are subtopics between the headings or the subtitles. So a couple things to keep in mind. Yes, you can go through and read all the specific font sizes and how they're supposed to be formatted, but this is just a general thing to keep in mind for these 2. For the subtitles, you want to limit them. So I would say for the first headings or the first level of subtitles, you want to limit that to about, I would say 3 topics other than your conclusion and introduction. So typically you'll have your introduction, then you'll have maybe your 3 subtopics, and then followed with your conclusion. Don't try to have like 7 or 8 subheadings. It's a little distracting, and for having 5 pages is not necessary. That same kind of rule goes with these heading 2. So within those headings, limit those also. Try not to have 3 to 5 subtitles for each section. You don't even have to have them unless you find it necessary. And here's also, there's the specific formatting for acknowledgement and references. And acknowledgement is up to you, basically recognizing who you've worked with and collaborated for your research, and references is the list of references. Captions. This personally is a pet peeve when I am looking at papers. So I'm going to forward actually one. So when you see an IEEE format picture, you have your caption below. And a couple things I want you to notice is that it does not say figure. In IEEE world, figure is a no-no unless you're not talking about a figure or something else. But it should be fig. Fig dot the number dot your description. You want to keep your description to 1 line, maybe 2, definitely not 3. So, like I said, fig dot number dot caption. Times New Roman, size 8. Like it says 1 line. 2 lines is a little yucky, but not the end of the world. And the same thing, if you're referencing a figure throughout the paper, you want to say fig dot, not figure. And this is literally the biggest no-no I catch almost immediately with so many undergraduates. So here's some more picture and caption tips. Some of this will be somewhat common sense, but you will be surprised how many people do this. So readability is number 1 priority. Do not have a warped picture. Do not try to squish it. It's not the end of the world if you stretch it between the 2 columns, but it should not be looking warped or unreadable. Couple things with that. The placement of the picture typically is at the top or the bottom. You want to avoid trying to do it in the middle of a section. It's just good practice. If you're using another image, cite the author just like you would within IEEE format of a paper. We already discussed the captions, and you should include whole numbers. The reason why I've seen some bizarre things with numbers, but it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. However, if you are using something that has 2 images, you do have to actually write a caption for both. So here's one example is where they have it labeled A and B, but there's still just one figure. But you can also use like top and bottom I've seen, but you do want to make sure you have a caption for each. And my favorite meme, make sure you cite. That is probably a big no-no. Will I go through your paper and maybe not catch everyone? No, but that is good practice. And especially if you're looking to go to graduate school, I promise you, you will be doing this for a long time. So get used to having that practice. And a couple things. So obviously you're going to have your references in IEEE format. Things to observe, how all the citations are in one single line and how all the numbers are in one single line. I think at this point, most of you should know this. For IEEE format, you'll have these numbers cited within the text, and you're going to list them in order as they appear in the text. Here are a lot of tips. We've actually already talked the first one. Keep it clean. We talked about the pictures at the top and the bottom, formatting as subtitles, and the spacing. So when I would look at your literature review, there shouldn't be large white spaces in the corner. Make sure that it's consistently consistent for the top and the bottom and clean cut. Page numbers are not necessary. It's not that it's wrong, but typically you do not see it. You can include a biography about yourself on the end, but to keep your 5 pages, that should not be what's filling up your biography. And when we say 5 full pages, it is 5 pages. We will return it to you if you don't complete those 5 pages. And the reason why is you do need to get used to having a page requirement for both extremes, not having enough or having too much. You will have both problems as you progress through your program. Remember, when writing an IEEE, remember purpose and preferences. The reason why I say it is what we're teaching you may not be set in stone. You may go to submit an article and they'll have their own format. Or I know personally, in education where we use APA format, and I have a professor who made up basically his own APA format. So it just really honestly depends on who you are writing for. So make sure you always understand the purpose and preferences. Properly cite, and the big thing is acronyms. You want to avoid acronyms in your abstract and keywords or index terms. And within your text, when you do use acronyms, make sure in the beginning that you actually explain what it is. So for example, wideband gap is represented with WBG. So if I was looking at it in the text, I would write wideband gap, parentheses, WBG, parentheses, and then I can use WBG throughout the paper. So I have covered a lot of materials. You have heard a lot of materials from Dr. Chang and Shelby. And so for your little check-in assignment is you're going to try to find 6 mistakes in the literature review. And so those of you who were there in person got a hard copy. If you click on this link, you will also get the soft copy or the electronic version. And you are going to submit your responses here and just write them out. To be honest, looking at it, there may actually be 6 more or more than 6. UGRS actually turned this in and it was absolutely perfect. So I purposely went through and messed up. So see if you can find the 6 responses or the 6 mistakes. Coming up, those of you who were there, this is just to kind of review this again. The literature review overview. This is something you've already gotten. It's going to take a second. Actually, I think I have it over here. This goes through what's expected from you. I may have to change the deadline on this. I had this in November. We've just changed this to December. This talks about all the different resources, a template, things like that. This is going to be a little messed up. Please take the survey. So after you've watched this video, you've done the assignment and you've submitted it, please take the survey. It says by Wednesday. Obviously, I do not expect you to have this all by Wednesday. Please try to complete it by the next meeting. I will say most likely the next meeting is that Monday before Thanksgiving. Please complete that due. Literature reviews are due Friday, January 18th. We highly recommend those of you, especially if you've never done it, to send at least a draft beforehand. Veteran Lit reviewers, you're going to be hearing from me shortly. And please read the emails being forwarded. There's a lot of great opportunities, but I know there's also a lot of emails. Check them out. Try to at least go to one or two things that we're sending you, because there are some really unique opportunities that Dr. Carpenter receives from the College of Engineering and NSF and different things like that. And the last thing is portfolio. I'm interested to see also who's interested in learning about this. This is an online engineering portfolio, and this is actually being something more widely used and more universities are using, as well as a few companies actually have also partnered it. So it's like an online portfolio for an online portfolio linked with LinkedIn. But I will be sending out more information if anyone's interested of me doing a session. And it would be really quick, 30 minutes. And that would just kind of give you an idea. Let me know if you have any questions. And good luck on your literature review.